Welcome to Wings to Fly, Dreams, Audio and ASMR, to our read-aloud of A Christmas Carol by Mr. Charles Dickens. We are at Stave 5, called The End of It, and therefore we have added a fifth little something to our little tableau. Little Christmas tree on top over there. I thought that seemed kind of celebratory and indicative of the very celebratory tone of this last chapter of this book. At the last chapter that we were reading, in Scrooge's agony, he caught the spectral hand of the ghost of Christmas yet to come. It sought to free itself, but he was strong in his entreaty and detained it. The spirit, stronger yet, repulsed him. Holding up his hands in one last prayer to have his fate reversed, he saw an alteration in the phantom's hood and dress. It shrunk, collapsed, and dwindled down into a bedpost. Stave 5, the end of it. Yes, and the bedpost was his own. The bed was his own. The room was his own. Best and happiest of all, the time before him was his own, to make amends in. I love tea. I will live in the past, the present, and the future, Scrooge repeated as he scrambled out of bed. He had just said to the ghost, I will honor Christmas in my heart and try to keep it all the year. I will live in the past, the present, and the future. The spirits of all three shall strive within me. I will not shut out the lessons that they teach. Oh, tell me that I may sponge away the writing on this stone. That would have been a better one to start with. I will live in the past, present, and the future, Scrooge repeated as he scrambled out of bed. The spirits of all three shall strive within me. Oh, Jacob Marley, heaven and the Christmas time be praised for it. I say it on my knees, old Jacob, on my knees. He was so fluttered and so glowing with his good intentions that his broken voice would scarcely answer to his call. He had been sobbing violently in his conflict with the spirit, and his face was wet with tears. They are not torn down, cried Scrooge, folding one of his bed curtains in his arms. They are not torn down, rings and all. They are here. I am here. The shadows of the things that would have been may be dispelled. They will be. I know they will. His hands were busy with his garments all this time, turning them inside out, putting them on upside down, tearing them, mislaying them, making them parties to every kind of extravagance. I don't know what to do, cried Scrooge, laughing and crying in the same breath, and making a perfect Laocoon of himself with his stockings. That's a reference to a Greek myth where a father and his two sons, all three of whom I think were jerks, ended up wrestling with a sea serpent and being a perfect tangle of fighting. I'm as light as a feather, I'm as happy as an angel, I'm as merry as a schoolboy, I'm giddy as a drunken man. A Merry Christmas to everybody! A Happy New Year to all the world! Hello there! Oh, hello! He had frisked into the sitting room and was now standing there, perfectly winded. There's the saucepan that the girl was in, cried Scrooge, starting off again and going round the fireplace. There's the door by which the ghost of Jacob Marley entered. That's the corner where the ghost of Christmas present sat. There's the window where I saw the wandering spirits. It's all right. It's all true. It all happened. Really, for a man who had been out of practice for so many years, it was a splendid laugh. A most illustrious laugh. We're going to pretend that what I just did sounded like a splendid, illustrious laugh, okay? Just telling you. We're going to pretend that. The father of a long, long line of brilliant laughs. I don't know what day of the month it is, said Scrooge. I don't know how long I've been among the spirits. I don't know anything. I'm quite a baby. Never mind, I don't care. I'd rather be a baby. Hello, woof, hello there! He was checked in his transports by the churches, ringing out the lustiest peals he had ever heard. Clash, clang, hammer, ding, dong, bell, bell, dong, ding, hammer, clash, clang. Oh, glorious, glorious! Running to the window, he opened it and put out his head. No fog, no mist, clear, bright, jovial, stirring, cold. Cold, piping for the blood to dance to, golden sunlight, heavenly sky, sweet fresh air, merry bells. Oh, glorious, glorious! What's today? Cried Scrooge, calling downward to a boy in Sunday clothes, who perhaps had loitered in to look about him. Eh? Returned the boy, with all his might of wonder. What's today, my fine fellow? Said Scrooge. Today? Replied the boy. Why, Christmas Day! It's Christmas Day, said Scrooge to himself. I haven't missed it. The spirits have done it all in one night. They can do anything they like. Of course they can, of course they can. Hello, my fine fellow. Hello, returned the boy. Do you know the poulterers in the next street but one at the corner? Scrooge inquired. "I should hope I did," replied the lad. "An intelligent boy," said Scrooge. "A remarkable boy. Do you know whether they've sold the prize turkey that was hanging up there? Not the little prize turkey, the big one?" "What, the one as big as me?" returned the boy. "What a delightful boy," said Scrooge. "It's a pleasure to talk to him. Yes, my buck." "It's hanging there now," replied the boy. "Is it?" said Scrooge. "Go and buy it." "Walker!" exclaimed the boy. What does that mean? Walker as an exclamation. It's an archaic British exclamation of disbelief or dismissal, similar to "yeah, right," or "get out of here." Yeah, Walker! Just walk on, you crazy man. "No, no," said Scrooge, "I am in earnest. Go and buy it and tell him to bring it here, that I may give them the direction where to take it. Come back with the man, and I'll give you a shilling. Come back with him in less than 5 minutes, and I'll give you half a crown." The boy was off like a shot. He must have had a steady hand at a trigger who could have got a The boy was off like a shot. He must have had a steady hand at a trigger who could have got a shot off half so fast. That was a very complicated way of saying that anybody who could have got a shot off that fast must have had a very quick hand. But whatever. I can get comfy with the couch. "I'll send it to Bob Cratchit's," whispered Scrooge, rubbing his hands and splitting with a laugh. "He shan't know who sends it. It's twice the size of Tiny Tim. Joe Miller never made such a joke as sending it to Bob's Wilby." Who's Joe Miller? Joe Miller, 1843. Clement, yeah. He was an English actor, apparently. Is he a comedic actor? No, he was in serious plays. Oh, wait. Huh. So he was an English actor. Oh! Okay, no. He was post-Shakespearean time, or he was post-Shakespeare's day. But he was born in 1684 and died in 1738. He was an English actor. He played multiple different, various cool people. After Miller's death, John Motley brought out a book called Joe Miller's Jests, or The Wits Vade Mecum, published under the pseudonym of Elijah Jenkins, Esquire, at the price of 1 shilling. Thank you very much. I wanted to know how much it cost. It was a collection of contemporary and ancient coarse witticisms, only 3 of which are told of Miller. The first edition was a thin pamphlet, so it had 247 numbered jokes. So it was just a joke book, and for some reason he titled it after this actor. Any time-worn jest came to be called a Joe Miller, a Joe Millerism, or simply a Millerism. Oh! Joke 99 states, "A lady's age happening to be questioned, she affirmed she was but 40, and called upon a gentleman that was in company for his opinion. 'Cousin,' said she, 'do you believe I am in the right when I say I am but 40? "'I ought not to dispute it, madam,' replied he, 'for I have heard you say so these 10 years. Rude. Why is there such a thing? Why has it been, like, ageism is such a thing? It's so weird. Like, why have women felt so insecure about their age? Why has it been so socialized that, like, women have to be young? It's so weird. Okay. So, it's just, for whatever reason, this one dude compiled a joke book and titled it Joe Miller's Jests, even though only 3 of the jokes were about Miller, Joe Miller, the actor, Joseph Miller, the actor. But there were so many crazy. I just love that there was a joke book published in 1739. Like, I never thought of joke books being published back in the day. That's so funny. I love it. Okay, so Joe Miller's just another term for just a goofy joke. Well, Joe Miller never made such a joke as sending the turkey twice the size of Tiny Tim to Bob Cratchit's. The hand in which Scrooge wrote the address was not a steady one, but write it he did somehow, and went downstairs to open the street door, ready for the coming of the poulterer's man. As he stood there, waiting his arrival, the knocker caught his eye. "I shall love it, as long as I live," cried Scrooge, patting it with his hand. "I scarcely ever looked at it before. What an honest expression it has in its face. It's a wonderful knocker. Here's the turkey. Hello, whoop-hi-you! Merry Christmas!" It was a turkey. He could never have stood upon his legs, that bird. He would have snapped him short off in a minute like sticks of sealing wax. He's that chonky, I guess. "Why, it's impossible to carry that to Camden Town," said Scrooge. "You must have a cab." The chuckle with which he said this, and the chuckle with which he paid for the turkey, and the chuckle with which he paid for the cab, and the chuckle with which he recompensed the boy, were only to be exceeded by the chuckle with which he sat down breathless in his chair again, and chuckled till he cried. Shaving was not an easy task, for his hand continued to shake very much, and shaving requires attention, even when you don't dance while you are at it. But if he had cut the end of his nose off, he would have put a piece of sticking plaster over it and been quite satisfied. Sticking plaster is like, the plaster you put over cuts. It was that time equivalent of a Band-Aid. He dressed himself, all in his best, and at last got out into the streets. The people were by that time pouring forth as he had seen them with the ghost of Christmas present, and walking with his hands behind him, Scrooge regarded every one with a delighted smile. He looked so irresistibly pleasant, in a word, that 3 or 4 good-humoured fellows said, "Good morning, sir, Merry Christmas to you." And Scrooge said often afterwards that of all the blithe sounds he had ever heard, those were the blithest in his ears. Isn't that cool? Like, his whole life, he's just, for so many years, he's gone, no kind of, because he doesn't greet people, so no kind of people, jovially, greeting him back. And so getting to hear people be like, "Oh, really? Oh, absolutely. Oh, hi, how you doing?" Just how special that was to him. That's cool. He had not gone far, when coming on towards him he beheld the portly gentleman who had walked into his counting-house the day before, and said, "Scrooge and Marley's, I believe." It sent a pang across his heart to think how this old gentleman would look upon him when they met, but he knew what path lay straight before him, and he took it. "My dear sir," said Scrooge, quickening his pace and taking the old gentleman by both his hands, "how do you do? I hope you succeeded yesterday. It was very kind of you. A Merry Christmas to you, sir." "Mr. Scrooge?" "Yes," said Scrooge, that is my name, and I fear it may not be pleasant to you. Allow me to ask your pardon. And will you have the goodness—" Here Scrooge whispered in his ear. "Lord bless me!" cried the gentleman, as if his breath were gone. "My dear Mr. Scrooge, are you serious?" "If you please," said Scrooge, "not a farthing less. A great many back payments are included in it, I assure you. Will you do me that favour?" My dear sir," said the other, shaking hands with him, "I don't know what to say to such munificent—" "Don't say anything, please," retorted Scrooge. "Come and see me. Will you come and see me?" "I will," cried the old gentleman, and it was clear he meant it. "Thank ye," said Scrooge. "I am much obliged to you. I thank you 50 times. Bless you." He went to church, and walked about the streets, and watched the people hurrying to and fro, and patted children on the head, and questioned beggars, and looked down into the kitchens of houses, and up to the windows, and found that everything could yield him pleasure. He had never dreamed that any walk, that anything, could give him so much happiness. In the afternoon, he turned his steps toward his nephew's house. He passed the door a dozen times before he had the courage to go up and knock, but he made a dash and did it. "Is your master at home, my dear?" said Scrooge to the girl. "Nice girl, very." "Yes, sir." "Where is he, my love?" said Scrooge. "He's in the dining room, sir, along with mistress. I'll show you upstairs, if you please." "Thank ye. He knows me," said Scrooge, with his hand already on the dining room lock. "I'll go in there, my dear. I'll go in here, my dear." He turned to "Oh, she was saying I'll take you up to the sitting room and then they can come see you." He's like, no, it's fine. I'm going to go barge in during dinner." He turned it gently and sidled his face in round the door. They were looking at the table, which was spread out in great array, for these young housekeepers are always nervous on such points and like to see that everything is right. "Fred!" said Scrooge. Dear heart alive, how his niece by marriage started. Especially if he said it anything like how poor Scrooge's voice in this. book. I can't say that I love the voice that they give Scrooge, but consistency compels me to continue. Also, I don't know how to make him talk, but whatever. Scrooge had forgotten for the moment about her sitting in the corner with the footstool, or he wouldn't have done it on any account. Okay, I am pretty positive that that means that the niece is pregnant. I thought that when it specifically said how she was just sitting there with her, I was like, wait a second, is she pregnant? Because like before, whenever I read this, I didn't ever connect to that. And then now, especially, I think she must be with child, and of course we can't say that in a book at the time. But anyway, I think that Scrooge's niece is pregnant. Why, bless my soul, cried Fred. Who's that? It's I, your Uncle Scrooge. I've come to dinner. Will you let me in, Fred? Let him in. It is a mercy he didn't shake his arm off. He was at home in 5 minutes. Nothing could be heartier. His niece looked just the same. So did Topper when he came. So did the plump sister when she came. So did everyone when they came. Wonderful party, wonderful games, wonderful unanimity, wonderful happiness. But he was early at the office next morning. Oh, he was early there. If he could only be there first and catch Bob Cratchit coming late, that was the thing he had set his heart upon. Oh, Ebenezer Scrooge is cheeky at this point. And he did it. Yes, he did. The clock struck 9. No Bob. 1/4 No Bob. He was full 18 minutes and a half behind his time. Scrooge sat with his door wide open, that he might see him come into the tank. Okay, I thought he was just saying tank. Is this a thing? What's a tank? What was a tank in 1843 in England? Okay, that's okay. In 1843, a tank in England referred to a large storage container for liquids, such as a basin, cistern, or reservoir for holding water. So it's just continuing to make a joke about how small the outer office is. Literally took me the entire book to finally look up what that meant. Because I thought that was what it meant, but then I'm like, okay, wait, is a tank another word for foyer at this time? No, it's just again referring to how small it is. Okay. Bob's hat was off before he opened the door. His comforter, too. He was on his stool in a jiffy, driving away with his pen as if he were trying to overtake 9 o'clock. Hello, growled Scrooge in his accustomed voice, as near as he could feign it. Oh, I should have been changing his voice, apparently. Oh! What do you mean by coming here at this time of day? I'm very sorry, sir, said Bob. I am behind my time. You are, repeated Scrooge. Yes, I think you are. Step this way, if you please. It's only once a year, sir, pleaded Bob, appearing from the tank. It shall not be repeated. I was making rather merry yesterday, sir. Now, I'll tell you what, my friend, said Scrooge. I am not going to stand this sort of thing any longer, and therefore, he continued, leaping from his stool and giving Bob such a dig in the waistcoat that he staggered back into the tank again, and therefore I'm about to raise your salary. Bob trembled and got a little nearer to the ruler. He had a momentary idea of knocking Scrooge down with it, holding him, and calling to the people in the court for help and a straight waistcoat. Apparently what they called straitjackets back then. A Merry Christmas, Bob, said Scrooge with an earnestness that could not be mistaken, as he clapped him on the back. A merrier Christmas, Bob, my good fellow, than I have given you for many a year. I'll raise your salary and endeavour to assist your struggling family, and we will discuss your affairs this very afternoon over a Christmas bowl of smoking bishop, Bob. Make up the fires and buy another coal scuttle before you dot another I, Bob Cratchit. What's a bowl of smoking bishop? Christmas bowl of smoking bishop. La, 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 la. No, I didn't want that. I wanted that. Yes. From Wikipedia, smoking bishop is a type of mulled wine, punch, or wassail, especially popular in Victorian England at Christmas time. Okay, now we know. Scrooge was better than his word. He did it all, and infinitely more, and to Tiny Tim, who did not die, he was a second father. He became as good a friend, as good a master, and as good a man as the good old city knew, or any other good old city, town, or borough in the good old world. Some people laughed to see the alteration in him, but he let them laugh, and little heeded them, for he was wise enough to know that nothing ever happened on this globe for good, at which some people did not have their fill of laughter at the outset. And knowing that such as these would be blind anyway, he thought it quite as well that they should wrinkle up their eyes in grins, as to have the malady in less attractive forms. His own heart laughed, and that was quite enough for him. He had no further intercourse with spirits, but lived upon the total abstinence principle ever afterwards. And it was always said of him that he knew how to keep Christmas well if any man alive possessed the knowledge. May that be truly said of us, and all of us. And so, as Tiny Tim observed, God bless us, every one. The end. Okay, what the heck is the total abstinence principle? I wonder how much of these I've looked up before in the past and just can't remember. Total abstinence principle. The term total abstinence principle, something like that, it's a complete avoidance of something. The term also has a metaphorical meaning as seen in A Christmas Carol, where a character commits to a life free from negative behaviors and spiritual, supernatural influences. So basically, he just lived so well that it was just basically like, yep, I'm not going to have to deal with the spirits anymore because I'm being a good person now. Can't say that I love the illustrations in this copy that I got off of Amazon, because the copy that I grew up with is still in my family's home, and I was just trying to get... So originally, I had this idea back, I think, in like 2023, of wanting to read A Christmas Carol aloud in a little, just set up like a little tableau of me kind of dressed up in a Victorian outfit, the camera cutting off like where I'm, like my neck up, and me being very dignified and, you know, just, you know, wonderful and calm and, you know, dignified. And I never did it. And because I was like, oh, and I'll read Jane Austen books, and I'll just start a channel, and I'll just read books aloud on it. And as you can see, because I mean, I've been wanting to do it, have a YouTube channel and do stuff with it since literally early 2019, I think. And I've thought of different ways of doing it, all the things, you know. And so it had evolved by 2023 into like, it could be a read aloud channel with books that were in the public domain. And the first one I did could be A Christmas Carol. And I just kind of never did it. And then, like, as you can see, my ideas for this channel have metamorphed through the years. And as you can also see, my approach to read-alouds is different, and also my approach to attempting any of this. I'm a goblin. What can I say? There's very little of, you know, calm and dignity and serenity about me. I'm just a live little weird old coot. So, yeah, I do weird accents, not particularly well at all. I interrupt myself constantly to look up things on in the web browser to figure out what the heck's going on when I don't know what's going on, and chatter away in between everything. So yeah, that's how this ended up. Meanwhile, but yeah, so back in the day, I was gonna read this with the camera on me and me being visible, and so I wanted a really big copy of A Christmas Carol to be, you know, again, easily visible. So I got one on Amazon, but I didn't look at what the illustrations looked like in it before, and this is really the first time I've opened it up, and it's been a couple years that I've had it now, and can't say I love the pictures at all, but, you know, that's fine. Meanwhile, I need to try and remember who the illustrator, because the one I grew up with was beautiful. I think it might have been a George Hildebrandt illustrated one. Like, he did illustrated paintings and stuff, and is quite a beautiful artist. So I'm thinking that maybe that, because we had a Robin Hood and some of Charles and Mary Lamb's Shakespeare adaptations with George Hildebrandt, and they were similar types of books, like with the fabric colors and everything. So that's all information that you did not need, but you're welcome. Anywho, I love the story A Christmas Carol. As I've mentioned before on the channel, I am a Christian, and I must give the disclaimer that I do not approve of many acts of Christians over the course of history, and many of the Christians who run around in the world today being all like, oh yes, I'm a Christian, and you're like, hi, do you know, the being whose name is referenced in that title, Christian? Do you know about him? Did you ever hear about him? Did you ever consider, learning about him and actually trying to do some of the stuff that he said? Because it's almost like you're failing if you think in any way that you're doing that. Meanwhile, it's just, someone whose tenets were all about, love and, taking care of people, reaching out to people, finding your humanity. It's kind of weird that someone whose teachings were all about that his name is used to describe so many people on this planet who are not like that. But, there's people in any group that are going to be the bad apples. I'm just really annoyed by the fact that there seem to be a lot of bad apples in this group. I think I also take it as a personal affront, because as a Christian, I'm just like, how dare you be this? Like, it's bad enough if you're going to be an awful person, but you don't have any context for not being an awful person. But like, you've got all this context for not being an awful person, and you're still being an awful person. Like, wow. Anyway, moving on. So yes, I am a Christian, and I grew up celebrating Christmas, and I love Christmas very much, but not just because of the special meaning that it has for me and anybody who, actually follows the type of religion that I ascribe to. I just love the concept of the holiday, and also the concept of the other holidays that are around this time of year. Again, I just, as I mentioned in another video, I think it's very, very cool how 4 specifically that I know of, Christmas, Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, and Yule, these 4 very old, Christmas is obviously, so much appropriation of Yule and Yuletide traditions, but, minor details. Kind of not, but, they're also centered around hope and just trying to be better, do better, make things better. I love that at a time of year that, at least in the northern half of the world, above the equator, at a time of the year that is, fairly bleak weather-wise, and not particularly comfortable in many ways weather-wise, that these celebrations have just, through the ages, for various and assorted reasons, come to be celebrated, that are just, I believe many of them centered in just looking beyond the struggles of this world, so often created by the humans living upon it, either being rude to each other or not understanding how to manage existence. Just the struggle can be so real. And again, like all of these 4 different holidays specifically that I'm talking about, and any others that are go on at this time of year, like, it's not to say that they're all based on the same thing and whatnot, but they are celebrative. All of them, to my understanding, have some centering, to whatever extent, on hope and on, building, just building betterness for people and for ourselves, right? And I think that's really inspiring, that, I think it really shows the resilience of humans, that in a dark, bleak time of year for those who live above the equator, it's, humans have ended up creating these really special and beautiful traditions for, again, various and assorted reasons. E.K. Chesterton and, well, like C.S. Lewis, also Goethe in his book Faust, like, just, there's a lot of different dialogues about how much capacity humans have for either great good or great not good, you know? And since calling things good or bad can be polarizing in a not particularly helpful way, a way that I like to think of it, per words of Goethe from Faust, is constructive versus not constructive, constructive versus destructive, creative versus destructive, right? Humans have so much capacity for both destruction and creativity, creation, construction, things being constructive, doing things constructively. And so while the one end of that spectrum is very scary, and we see a lot of that in this world today, of people's, the results of the great capacity that humans have for destructive behavior towards other humans. And that's really scary. And so I really appreciate the thoughts of E.K. Chesterton, who talked about radical love and faith and hope, about loving the world and doing our best to, you know, and I'm not quoting from him, I'm paraphrasing things he said and also sharing my thoughts on things he said. But like, you know, he talked about just this concept of radical good, you know, and how as we spread that within our own spheres of influence, those ripples affect the spheres of influence of other people and gradually the world at large, right? Yes, humans have capacity for great destructiveness, but by that very token, we have great capacity for constructiveness, for creativity, for creation, for construction, for goodness. And I cling to that concept of radical love, of radical faith, of radical hope, of radical kindness. And by radical faith in this context, I'm meaning radical faith in the capacity that humans have for being better. Radical kindness, radical gentleness, radical sensitivity, radical empathy. Like, I believe that that is where the solution to so much of the struggles that confront this world lie. I'm not talking about acceptance of the unacceptable. I'm not talking about tolerance of intolerance. I'm talking about learning to love and live amongst people as respectfully as possible despite disagreements, so that everybody's human rights are respected, protected, that we care about them, that we recognize that if one person's human rights are not being respected and protected, then that puts everybody, that's indicative that there are systemic issues that could eventually encompass everyone. I truly believe that the philosophy of absurdism is wonderful and of great benefit to people, versus the philosophy of nihilism, which is, to me, pretty destructive. It can work for some people, but nihilism, as I've talked about before, nihilism, nothing matters, so why anything? You know, nothing matters, nobody matters. You know, if everybody's super, well, then nobody's super, you know? Versus the philosophy of absurdism. If nothing matters, why not? If one person matters, everybody matters. If everybody's super, then everybody's super. That means if everybody is incredible and amazing, that means everybody's incredible and amazing. How is that not amazing, you know? To me, the philosophy of absurdism is very yes and energy, which is a device of improv comedy. Just you never say no in an improv comedy scene. You say yes, and, you know, yes, there was a dragon, and the dragon had a best friend who was a cat. You know, you support and you build. I, with Red Skeleton, firmly believe that we were sent to this world with a purpose, and that is to build and not to destroy. And I believe in you, my little goblin friends, that you can help influence the world by being you. By being the best you that you can be. And that's not like the best version of yourself, your favorite version of yourself, you know? As I often say, if nobody's getting hurt, including probably not you, why not? Have fun, roll with it. Be your favorite self. Make your life the favorite version of it that you can. And by doing and finding some measure of peace, some measure of enjoyment, some measure of happiness, to whatever extent in this world, you're making more of that in this world. You're bringing more peace and happiness and enjoyment into this world. I just really, really think that love is the answer. In the immortal words of Miss Matty from Return to Cranford, the BBC sequel to their Cranford miniseries based on the writings of Elizabeth Gaskell. Love, she says at the end of the second series, it makes the world go round. And I'm not quoting her precisely, but that is the answer. Love is the answer, in the words of Miss Matty, and I fully agree with her. She's wonderfully portrayed in those series by Judi Dench, an incredible actress. I love the character of Miss Matty in both the book and the miniseries of Cranford, and I really believe that that's an answer. I think that the more that we can love ourselves and share love with other people, I believe that the warmer the world is, and therefore the warmer everybody can be. So I hope that you are keeping yourselves warm on the inside with kindness to yourselves, and that as you are able and safely able to do so, and not in a self-detrimental way, I hope you're able to share that warmth with other people, so that we can all be the fireflies in the dark, the lanterns in the movie Tangled, the sunlight coming through fog. This world is pretty dismal in a lot of ways and in a lot of places and for a lot of people, which means that every smile counts, even if it's a smile that we put on our own faces because we got ourselves popcorn today to eat and we're excited to eat that popcorn, like finding something about little things in life that can put a smile on our face, finding little things in life that can put a smile on our face, and then embracing that and rolling with it and making sure that we have the little things in our life that can put a smile on our face. We need all the smiles, guys, because I think that smiles are born of love, and like Charles Dickens was saying, in one of the books, yes, there's the contagion of awful and of illness and everything, but there's also the contagion of laughter and joy and happiness. And so, yeah, if you're able to make yourself smile or anybody else smile, that's a victory, guys. And that's a plus, and that's a pro. And to me, that's the spirit of keeping the spirit of Christmas alive in our hearts and keeping it all the year. I don't think you need to celebrate Christmas or care about it to like the idea of there being a little bit more peace on earth and a little bit more goodwill toward mankind. And so in that spirit, in the spirit of adding more peace on earth and having more goodwill for all humankind, let's collect smiles, huh? Collect smiles from ourselves, from other people, so that in the ripple effect, we can just contagion the world all over with love and with smiles and with kindness. And I'm referencing, of course, Charles Dickens saying that, not that contagion all over the world is a good thing. We've lived through COVID. We know that that sort of thing is awful. Of course, I have to make that sort of disclaimer. But yeah, let's make sure this smile spread as much as we can. Again, even if it's over the littlest of things, like cute little plushies. I love plushies. I also love you guys. Take care of yourselves. Be safe. Give yourself permission to make yourself smile. Eat the yummy something or other. Breathe the pretty fresh air. Look outside the window. Watch the trees waving in the wind and see the leaves sparkling in the sunlight as they ripple away. Listen to running water. Hear animal sound, you know? If you don't live where animals or water sound or any of that is, like, there's always the sky, right? You can look up and see cute shapes in the clouds, even if it's dark and stormy. I don't know. I'm just brainstorming here. There are cool rocks, even when they're actually chipped off pieces of asphalt or cement, right? Like, you know, come on, guys, we are goblins. We can find the fun and the whimsy and the wonder and the, I don't know, it's kind of cool to me, wherever we are and whatever we're looking at. And so good luck with that, y'all. And just show yourselves as much love as you can, please. And by so doing, you're bringing more love into the world. And that's exactly what this world needs. Rock on, my little goblin friends! Loves and happy seasonal everythings to you. Bye!